What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today, we're coming at you with Best Served Podcast 175. We're talking restaurant farmers, bringing those two together with Taylor and Joe of Forever West Farms, as well as LoHi Steak Bar in Denver, Colorado. Gentlemen, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
All right, Best Served Whole. This is a really fun channel that we have now. We're kind of really exploring the whole food system. And so we're talking to farmers, we're talking to regulators, we're talking to chefs, we're talking to now kind of the intersection of restaurant operators, of chef, and then of farmers as well. So really fascinated kind of the connecting the dots piece that these gentlemen have done so well. All right, Joe Pettenger, you are a managing partner, right? LoHi Steak Bar, Forever West. And
Yes.
And just tell us just real quick, the restaurant itself, kind of what can people expect from the restaurant side of what you guys do?
Yeah, so LoHi Steak Bar, best way to explain it is American comfort food. Obviously focused on steak. We get subprimals in. We cut them, trim them, cut them down, trim them, and then cut them to order so they're as fresh as they possibly can be. We have a really great seafood options as well. Phenomenal happy hour from 4 to 5 every day, and a great wine list, beer list, back bar. We have between 75 and 95 whiskeys on the back bar at any given time, and just a real spot to hospitality and making sure that whoever walks in there, they're getting exactly what they want and feel at home, whether it's a quick happy hour with friends or an anniversary dinner. We do it all really well.
And I wanted to quickly, we'll come back to it because I'm very fascinated. You guys have multiple businesses kind of working congruently. Just touch on, you made a pivot long before pivot was the word you were supposed to use, where you created another space, another extension of the brand. Just touch on that real quick and we'll come back to it in depth.
Yeah. So we also have LoHi Local, which is connected to the restaurant itself. And we had a private dining room that was just underutilized, and we turned it into a coffee shop in a market. We now do online grocery sales, so you can go to our website, you go to Chow Now and get all your groceries packed up. And if the restaurant brings it in for the kitchen in any way, shape, or form, we will sell it through the market. So that is open 7 days a week from 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock. We do just as much grocery business as we do breakfast and lunch and coffee business. So it's been a great addition. One of the things about living in LoHi is if you live there, you don't want to get in your car and drive to the grocery store, and there's no accessible food there. So we wanted to really capitalize on that and make it so people could just stop in, and whether they needed pepper or eggs or milk or whatever it was, we get it for them. So we get calls all the time like, hey, do you sell this? We're like, absolutely. Just give me 10 minutes to package it up and it's yours.
So smart. Again, I want to go deep into that because the business model now is something we see everybody has been doing lately because of COVID, saying we need to become a centralized hub where you can get your meal for tonight. You can get your meal kit for the next 3 days. You can get your groceries. Hell, we have toilet paper. And so you guys were already thinking in that space quite a while ago. So I really appreciate that. All right, Taylor, for you, chef in the kitchen, and now you're out on the farm. I love that dynamic. And so talk about the farm, Forever West. What can people kind of expect from, what are you guys up to there?
Forever West, we sell at the Arvada Farmers Markets on Sundays, and we also have a 75-member CSA that we're doing this season. All vegetables at this point. We're looking to add more of a whole diet CSA. We produce heritage grains as well as pasture-raised chickens right now. Gotten the egg game this year, which has been really great. So I've been running, we're going to be at 125 layers here shortly. And so we've been buying pullets anywhere we can get them. So eggs are great right now. So and we're doing beautiful
grains. When you say heritage grains, that's kind of a term that goes over a lot of people. What exactly?
Oh, okay.
Right?
Well, yeah. Pre 1920s varietals of grain. Pre-agricultural revolution, when we started manipulating and pushing grains to be productive as opposed to flavorful. We have focused on a couple of different varieties. We started with 20 pounds of turkey red 3 years ago, and we have pulled about 10,000 pounds this year off the harvest. So
wow.
Just purchased a 1920s Meadows mill that we're refurbishing, and we're going to start milling fresh flour for the community. So when you're ready, I'll let you. I'll get you some of that. So
I'm really fascinated. This again, you guys were so ahead of the curve, because now two things that are hot commodities, flour and eggs, because people are baking at home. This has been a big movement that we've seen right now. Betsy's become a cupcake master downstairs. So I'm a big believer in this, and you're creating a flavor. And that's something easy to say. Like when we think of flour, we don't think of flavor. That's not what it's there for.
That's not what it's there for.
Different experience. Just touch on that, because I think it's really important for people to understand. This isn't just like a more expensive flour. This is a whole different game.
Yeah, I mean, and so this is, completely unadulterated wheat. We're not spraying with chemicals to dry it down, which is happening a lot in the northern part of America right now. When they're trying to pull in their wheat harvest, they're hitting it with chemicals. So this is chemical free, no pesticides, herbicides. We fertilize with chicken poop. That's all we use. So
you got the layers. There you go.
Yeah, and actually we're using our layers pretty intensively, rotating them around the farm. That's a whole different conversation, but we are utilizing the chickens to be able to cut down on our fertilizer costs, but also give us just the exact fertilizer we want, So on the heritage grain side of it, though, when you mill with flour, when fresh milled flour, they say it's alive still, within the first couple hours of milling it, it's an active live culture and it just bakes better bread. Makes better starters. It bakes better bread. The flavors there. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but there are people who hang a lot of, that gluten intolerances are not really coming from gluten. It's just that it's wheat that's bothering you, and it's the chemicals that are bothering you, and people are finding success. There's a guy who grows his own spelt down in Mancos, Colorado, because he has Crohn's disease, and he wants to make sure that he has gluten-free flour that's been unadulterated, and so he grows his own spelt. But so there's a lot of benefits on that end of what we're doing and how we're doing it. This is,
you guys, we have to have a whole series with you guys, because you were literally like talking about a lot of big topics here. To your point, exactly that. Like a lot of people that are gluten intolerant then have whole grain breads. It's a whole different thing for them. They feel better than when they don't eat any type of gluten, because they're creating whole carbohydrates and protein. So I think it's an important thing to think
absolutely
about. So,
and that's something we're thinking about is whole diets. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I want to connect the dots now for people, because you guys are thinking from the soil to the plate, right? And not in this brand positioning way of we are farm to table, because that was we came up in that era of farm to table, nose to tail, and so often it was just a soundbite. Then when you look at the books, 12% of your purchasing comes from local products, and the math.
If that,
you guys are going at it whole hog, and so I want to touch on that. When you're thinking about what goes into the ground, when you're thinking about what you want to grow, when you're thinking about what you want to raise, when you're thinking about what you want to cultivate, I want to start with you, Taylor, and talk about what's going in, because I'm sure you're thinking from a chef perspective, what do I want to cook with? And then I want to come to Joe and talk about how then we're applying it to the business model of a restaurant that we all know. Most restaurant people have no idea about the farm side. So start there. What are you growing and why?
Well, we're growing what's good for the soil. We're growing what works in Colorado is a lot of what we focus on. If you're not using Hakurei turnips in your spring menu, you're doing every farm a disservice at this point in life, because that's what grows in April, May is root vegetables. Hakurei turnips are a great one. Any type of radish. We have 3 types of radish on our crudité right now, and it is our crudité is pretty dope right now. So I'm loving it because the farm is just.
You go
100%.
like old school French salted butter.
No, I mean we have it's an avocado buttermilk dip that we're doing with it, so we get a little out of it. But yeah, I mean just a whole pile of fresh cut, fresh picked, fresh washed. I just dropped off 20 pounds of baby carrots that we were clearing a bed and just yanked them all and gave them to them. So
Taylor, if you put that on nails on a piece of wood and put it on a tasting menu, that's $225 a person. Just for good vegetables. Dan Barber built a whole brand around grains and vegetables on nails on pieces of wood. So I'm fascinated in that. What you're saying is important. And honestly, we as chefs, myself absolutely included, have been guilty of saying, I want the hot, sexy ingredient that grows in California all year long, and then have tried to push our local farmers to grow these things that don't grow well here. And they're trying to fill the need in the market, and they grow that. It doesn't grow well. We don't like it. And they just lost a massive potential of selling a product if they had just been on the turnips. And so sometimes chefs were a little unwavering, unyielding in like our want for the thing that's shiny and sexy. So talk about that dynamics. Any chef listening, you need the turnips. Stop trying to get the California or Florida produce here.
The tomato doesn't come until July.
No.
So, I mean, a good tomato's not coming until July here in Colorado. I mean, there's greenhouse and there are guys doing great greenhouse tomatoes. Don't get me wrong. Like, I know Acres at Warren Tech is doing a ton of really delicious.
Yep.
Yeah, Joshua Olson over there. He's badass in a lot of ways. I'm sorry about that.
This is not a family show. Don't worry. This is
okay. Good. I tend to curse sometimes. Yeah, I mean, there is some good tomatoes out there, but for the most part, most farms are not equipped. Most of us don't have. I mean, we got a high tunnel this year, and we got it up by mid-March, and so we have a little bit of season extension now, but a lot of farms don't have that, and so like working with the small farms is important, and there's a lot of them out there, and there's a lot of people trying to do some really great produce, but you gotta focus on like it's more about like how nutrient dense and how flavorful and how beautiful that carrot's going to be. Then I can make a prime carrot I can cook better than I can cook a beautiful tomato coming out of California. I mean, I think it's just a matter of where it's coming from, and the terroir and all that type of stuff is important to it. So
there are a couple of ingredients. What else is coming out of the soil right now or in the last couple of months?
We got everything right now. Right now, summer squash. Yeah. It's one of those things, like there's a reason why there's a national Give Your Neighbor Squash Day, because everybody's got too much squash. And like right now, we're cruising through hundreds of pounds of it at a time, and we're picking it. So making sure that talking to your farmers, and farmers have a harder time keeping their shit together as chefs do. So, I mean, we're a one-man show a lot of the time, or a two-man show, or a three-man show, but at the same time, or woman show, I should say, person show. They're just as organized or unorganized as a chef can be in a lot of ways. So it's a similar job, in all honesty.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. I'm a big believer that the breakdown is always communication. It's always finding ways to be a translator for people that think they speak the same language, but very much are speaking different languages. And so, Joe, perfect segue to you. You guys are connecting those dots. You now speak farmer, and I'm sure coming up in the industry, you didn't necessarily speak farmer. So talk about that. Now you have these products, these beautiful, amazing products. You can forecast because you know exactly when those products are coming, because you guys are also controlling your own growth schedules. Talk about bringing those products into the restaurant. How does it come about? Let's dig into that a little bit. And I want to get a little bit technical. So start high level, but I want to be like, how much percentage and some of those, because again, I want people to go, I could do this. Like, this is viable. This is an option for us in our
Well, so, being a chef, being a manager, being an owner of a restaurant, and even a farmer, and all these things, you have to plan months ahead of time. You're trying to be a year ahead of time. Right now, nobody is because of what's going on in the world. But you want to be 6 months, 3 months ahead of time. So I know the gestation period of when root vegetable is going to come out of the ground, and I know now that when I put these carrots in the ground today, they're going to be on my menu in 5, 6, 7 weeks or whatever that time period is. So I can come up and have a conversation with chef and say, hey, so we're going to have radishes and carrots and turnips and all this on this date here. So we need to create a menu that we're looking for right then and there. And we did that, and that's where that crudité plate came from. And working the field and working the farmer's market and seeing what we have and where we have things, I can now go to Chase, our executive chef, and say, hey, we have an abundance of these things here. We need them on our menu. We need to be looking at summer squash. Like, we just put out a beautiful scallop dish, and it's got a summer squash puree and a summer squash salad and a little bit of prosciutto and then tomatoes. And 90% of that's coming from the farm, with the exception of the prosciutto and the scallop. But that is a farm plate right there. And we're really going to have it for a little bit. And knowing when that cutoff is going to be is huge. Knowing that, okay, I don't have squash anymore. We got to switch this up. Knowing that crudité plate is going to change. And on the menu, it just says Forever West Farms crudité. It doesn't say anything specifically what it is. It's whatever we want it to be. It's whatever we walk the field and we were like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful today. We're going to do this and put it on the plate, run through a little staff tasting, make sure they all know what, a hot rye turnip is, or some of these different radishes that we have. Let them taste it. Let them be able to know what it tastes like. And it's better than anything we're ever going to buy from some of these guys who do a great job, the fresh guys of the world. But we pulled it out of the ground today. Taylor pulled it out of the ground yesterday morning, dropped it off. It's already on the menu. The sugar levels on these things that you're eating are just insane, and they're exactly the way it's supposed to be because we pick to eat now. So it's not like when you go to the store and the tomato that you are looking at right there was picked, 10 days ago or whatever else, and went through all of these different distribution processes. It literally went farmer's hand to the cook's hand. Now it's on a plate. And if it's your backyard and you're cooking that way and that's how you do everything at home, you have a little bit better idea. And I know I've seen a lot of chefs do more backyard gardens this year. And I think time period allowed for that, where everyone was kind of twiddling their thumbs, not being able to work. And they're like, oh, I should plant some stuff in my backyard, see what happens. And then you also get a feeling and a love for the food. It makes you respect what you're handling so much more. You're not over purchasing things because you don't want to throw it away. You really pay attention to what you're doing. If you're the chef in that position and you look down your line and you see your pantry cook just annihilating something because they don't have great knife skills or they don't really know what they're working with, but you're the one that pulled that out of the ground, that changes your world. And that was big thing with processing chickens is we got chef out there to process chickens with us. And you should see the way he looks at every chicken that goes out of that line now, because he knows what it takes. And he told me the other day, he's like, I will never throw another chicken away. I will never overcook another chicken, because that was such a process. And to have that much respect for that animal and or that vegetable or whatever else it's changed his world. And it's definitely changed my world. Like, and where food comes from is amazing.
I love that. I just think they'll never butcher a chicken and miss the oysters again, right? So many people do that.
100%. Yeah.
I think I'm interested in this. Again, I want to get really practical for people, because I think at a high level, this is like changing the game completely. I want people to know that. And when you go down and drill down, now I'm thinking about chef and coming up with a new menu item. And for some, that's exciting. They can just rip off good items. For some, they need to menu test for a month before they kind of get there. So you need to find the right people, feels like one thing. And I'll ask that question of you in a second. I want to add another layer. The communication piece. You mentioned giving the staff a tasting. It's really easy when you change your menus often for people not to know what's going on, because they're the late arrival server and they never got the taste the dish and they don't understand it. So I want to talk through that dynamic a little bit. I want to maybe then, Taylor, come back to you on the chef side. So having a chef who then can develop very quickly with you the menu items and be able to nail that dish, because we know consistency is key in restaurants, and you're creating a different kind of consistency where people can expect a crudité, but it's not the same dish, and you have to be able to execute quickly because it's coming out of the ground. Talk about that a little bit from executing on the culinary side.
Yeah. I think having the dynamic that me and Chase have, we've been able to communicate really well, and so like we're already communicating about things. So as I see things in the field, as I pick things, as you know, we have another farmer that works with us now. His name's Phil, and he joined us this season, and he's a real veteran of organic farming, and so he's been able to up our game a little bit and allow me to focus a little bit more on where the product's going and what kind of product we have, and being able to mastermind a little bit more, I guess, and as well in the kitchen. So I've been able to communicate with Chase. We've been able to talk through some dishes. This is his first exec chef gig, and so like which I think has actually been a real benefit to him, that he didn't have any preconceived notions about like this is how I do it type of thing. Like he's been able to walk in there, and like our kitchen is unique. I mean, we're always pushing it. We're always asking more of it. Than it's a small plant, and we crank out of it, and that's because we're all willing. We all believe in the idea, and so Chase and Xander, our sous chef. He's been with us since he was a pantry cook. He came in telling me he was a badass, and then he ended up being kind of meh for like 30 seconds, and then we got him going.
Oh yeah, we've all seen that.
Hell, I think 3 years later, he's our sous chef. Yeah. No, I mean, there was some point you have to fake it at one point in life, right?
There you go, Xander. Big shout out to Xander.
Yeah, Xander Lee. He is. He's killing it, and he has been for a lot of years for us. You know, it's fun that having staff that sticks around and being able to build family like that. So, but yeah, I mean, just the dynamic we have on that level is what's able to make it so we can communicate, and I can just drop off vegetables and I know what's going to happen with them. If I don't have time to talk to anybody, I know that they're going to get sold in the market, or they're going to get processed and used. We're going to get somewhere with them. And so we're working more on trying to figure out a little bit of a canning program for us, because we really want to start preserving a lot more of our own food.
Yes.
Just about having the plant and the logistics and making sure everything we're doing is super safe. And so we're learning, but yeah. So it's always picking something new.
I'm a big fan of what you just said, because I've been yelling as loud as possible that every restaurant needs to get into CPG, into consumer packaged goods. You have got to bring your brand to the people. You have got to also create other revenue streams. So, man, you guys are on fire right now. All right, Joe, more communication. Back to this. Restaurants that run the same menu day in and day out and then do a special 3 days a week, struggle to communicate what the shift is. And we used to get the patty pan squash. Now we have the zucchini. Like, those things get missed all the time in a restaurant that is just normal run of show restaurant. You guys are doing something way more moving parts. Talk about that, because that's sometimes where people go, God, I like doing the special stuff, but we fuck it up all the time. Like, we just don't know what we're doing. That happens all the time in restaurants. And so there's a fear and a trepidation. So talk about that a little bit. How are you guys able to execute?
Well, first off, I say we're not perfect. And, as much as I can sit here and say we communicate all of the time, I still miss stuff. I'll have a server come up to me and be like, hey, I didn't know we ran out of this. I'm like, well, it's on the whiteboard. We told this first. We went and told everybody, but you were at the table. I get that. We're going to fix that. We run out of stuff. It happens. So first of all, just knowing that mistakes are going to happen, and it's how you overcome mistakes. And whether that's a lack of communication in the beginning, you run with it, you move on, you're better from it. And knowing that ahead of time and not beating yourself up over it is the most important thing. Our staff is incredible. And that's just really where it stands right now, is even the new hires we've brought on have a high understanding of what it is we're trying to accomplish. But we have multiple people who have been with us for 3 and 4 years. And they fully believe in what we're doing. And not only do we have their backs, but they have our backs. And so a lot of that is just knowing how a person works. One of my managers, my coffee shop manager and head server, Jackie, she's amazing, and she knows how I think. And so when she sees the situation coming, she already kind of understands what it is that I'm going to do or say and how I'm going to treat that situation anyway, which is really nice. We do education every Friday. At least we try. It was definitely a solid pre-COVID, and now it's just to make sure we're really communicating. We have a Slack channel. One is, for maintenance. One is for schedules. One is for menu items, and one is just talk shit to each other. And we're constantly on it and making sure that we're doing the things we need to do there and communicating at least verbally before things even happen. And then try and make sure that everybody is in the building. Since we do have a small staff, almost every person that works at Steak Bar works on Friday and Saturday night. So we can run a meeting or a quick menu change or whatever, or a tasting of a dish at 5 o'clock in the middle of a rush. Take that 2 minutes and get everybody a little chance to try it, talk about it real quick, talk about what these items are, and we'll kind of go into it saying, hey, this is what we're going to do, be prepared. But then, I've already gone through some tastings, and so I go and round out the entire staff, say, stand here for 30 seconds, listen to chef. I'm going to go water your tables, make sure the door's covered, and do everything we needed over there, cover them on that side, let them listen, and then they can come to us with questions. But we have a small staff, so it's helpful. Small enough to where we have staggered in times because of our full tip pool, but not so small or so big that we lose a lot of that communication piece. So
you guys, I love everything that you guys are saying. And by the way, Sophie, make sure Slack, I think there's a need for communication tools. Drop a link to Slack in the comments. I think there's an absolute need to have conversations offline, because once you're in the restaurant, you're so go that sometimes communication can get missed. So the biggest takeaway that I have from you guys, which is a lot, but the biggest is that you guys are really focused on your ethos, your why, right? Why you do what you do allows the communication for all of the little things to be much simpler, right? That if people understand it's the importance of the soil, it's the importance of, you remember the sugar content, the bricks, right? Like you can tell that there's so much more uptake of nutrients because of the flavor, but also the chemistry within these ingredients, which is important. You tell them that, and they tell that story to their guests, well, then it doesn't matter if it's the turnip or if it's the carrot or if it's the squash, it's still the same story, right? And I think that's important. They get really good at telling that story, and it allows the trust and confidence in the team to execute and the guests to allow you to give them crudité. That could be a radish, it could be a turnip, it could be zucchini, and all of those things still matter, and you land. You are delivering on your why. So I really, really appreciate that. Guys, amazing conversation. I feel like we're going to have to do something live from the farm and follow one of these turnips from the soil to the plate, because I'm inspired by that. Sophie, write that down. We're going to make that happen.
Let's do it.
I want to give you guys each just a minute. Taylor, for you, any last thoughts? This was a really great conversation.
One of the things that brought me to farming was a group called Veterans to Farmers. I just want to make sure we say hi to them, because they're about the coolest thing ever. They gave me a ton of information, a ton of options, showed me all about farming, and then they've supported me even after I went crazy and just went for it. So, Joe and I was a little disenchanted by the local food movement and how I was not really as involved in it as I wanted to be, and wasn't really finding the ways to be involved that I was hoping for. And I've stumbled upon them, and they just kind of pointed me in the right direction, and it was there. I had to find my way in, and now that I'm here, I want to help them and help the local food movement and all that type of stuff. But Veterans to Farmers is changing lives. So they're somebody, if you're looking for somebody to support, or if you're a veteran and you're looking for a way in, like they're the right way to be. So
that's huge, really powerful. Again, we'll get a link down into the comments. Joe, for you, last thoughts. What else do we need to know? Again, we're talking to restaurant people, hospitality people, food and beverage. What do we need to know? We need to venture to where you guys are at. It's a little scary. It doesn't always work. The math doesn't always make sense, yet you guys are clearly on a totally different mission. Having known you guys for a long time, you guys were strong operators, no doubt. Now you're on a whole nother level. Like, that's very clear to me, just watching from a distance and the interactions that we've had. So leave us with some last thoughts, Joe. No pressure.
Well, knowing where your food comes from. I've been asked a lot why we started a farm, and Taylor and I came at this from different directions, and we met in the middle with a very strong idea. But I want my kids to know where food comes from. It's not the center aisle of a grocery store, and that's really important. And our chefs need to understand that. And if you're ordering from distributors, it's not coming from Colorado. if you're running a true farm to table restaurant in Colorado, you're using canned and a lot of root vegetable in the middle of winter, which is not always the funnest thing to do. But knowing what a real true farm to table restaurant is and what you're trying to be and where your ethos stands, but knowing where food comes from and how to properly process it is just the most important thing that I can really state right now. The food speaks for itself. It makes being a chef really easy when your food is grown by somebody, maybe even you, and you know how it goes and what that's going to taste like. You don't have to do all these spectacular things. It speaks volumes. And how being a steward of the land and being a steward of the world is very, very important. And I think we are being taught a lot about that right now with our local food scene. And I mean, our CSA membership over doubled this year because people want to know where their food's coming from. And it will double again next year, and we'll be ready for it. But it is very hard work. It is very scary, and it does not always go right. But knowing how to bounce back from that and picking yourself up and going at it again, same thing. If your tomato plant dies in the field, plant another one or rip it out and plant something that will live there. Because your first try is probably not going to work, and just keep going for it.
You guys, amazing, amazing. I want to get people who want to get the CSA, or are you selling to restaurants? It sounded like the volumes you were talking about you had, not quite. Maybe
some days we think about it. Nice. Some days we think about it. We haven't really been doing it. It's just, I mean, if you're interested, if you need a one-off thing, feel free to reach out to me. I probably got it. So, but I don't have like week to week. We're not super consistent on that. Our CSA is our most important piece to us right now, is going direct to the consumer, and so we have 75 members, and so making sure we got to get all the way to early October with them. So that's
here's what I want people reach out to them just so they know the demand in the market. So then when they're thinking about planning, because planning for farming is difficult. Like a lot of farmers had to start planting in March and February, and they had no idea what was going to happen, where they're going to be restaurants to buy their products. So it's a lot longer timeline you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So let's hit these guys up and ask for some products so that in 2021, who knows? All right, you guys, Joe Pettenger and Taylor, thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate being on. I love the work that you guys are doing, and I'm serious. We're coming to follow that turnip or some ingredient. I want to take it.
Planting radishes next week. You can come by.
All right, dude. I'm fired up. I'm thrilled into this. All right, we're gonna let you guys go. I'm gonna wrap with the audience for just a second, and appreciate you guys. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you, Jetson. Have a good one.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
All right, Joe and Taylor, Forever West and LoHi Steak Bar, the way that they are connecting the dots between restaurant and farm, it means something. It's very, very important for us to think about this within restaurants. I think just knowing your farmer and having that communication, understand where the food comes from, it allows you to tell the story downstream to your employees, your team, your guests, and your community. It matters. It makes a big, big difference. And once again, it's communication across the board. So knowing that farmers speak farmer and restaurants speak restaurant. Hell, you see in a restaurant, front of house, back of house speak different languages. Morning and night shifts speak different languages. So it's all about that communication. And I think the more that we know about our food system, and it just tastes better. The end. It just tastes better. And in restaurants, that's what we're striving for, is the best possible flavor. Yet once again, it is not what's on the plate. It's who gets it to the plate. And you see that when you have people that care about getting it to the plate, well, then what's on the plate, it just is better. That's it. The end. Episode over. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Cheers.